physically seen brain surgeries in China and in Japan where they would use acupuncture needles through the scalp covering, and they would literally do open brain surgery with that with some anesthesia.
Whoa.
So they have needles that are bendable that can go into this and go around the cranium.
That's
so there's
scary.
so many, there's a lot of them. Some people do, I've seen people do eye acupuncture.
Gee.
I mean, could you imagine that?
Nah, I don't know
I'm
about
serious.
that.
In a relationship, or they're low vibration, you're high vibration. If they get sick and they're not working to get their body healthy, you have a possibility of pulling the energy onto you.
Whoa.
So it'll pull yours down in music, and you start to have a medium frequency. So your gallbladder starts to get sick, and you start to get resentful and frustrated.
Welcome back to the Digital Social Hour. I'm your host, Sean Kelly. I'm here with my co-host, Wayne Lewis.
What up, what up?
And our guest today, Dr. Chris Motley.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely,
Doc
man.
in the building.
Oh, I mean, it's great. I mean, I love the setup and get to know you guys already. But yes, talking about age and how far I am behind the times. But it's great to be here. Thank you for letting me come here. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely,
sure.
man. You're looking great for 45.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about this is that, like, prior to, I think, me knowing that you were going to be on the show, your clip popped up on my Explore page. And you were talking about losing, like, hair loss is the combination of what is bone weakness or bone density, lack of bone density, because the body is not. I guess the minerals are going to the bone versus the hair follicles or something like that.
And the blood flow.
Yeah.
And if I talk too much, just tell me to back off because I get into nerd talk. But yes, like we did one about the kidneys, and so what it talks about is how the kidneys have hormones,
Right.
and it signals to your bone marrow to
Right.
produce red blood cells.
Right.
So it doesn't cause all hair loss, but if you do have hair loss in one area of the head, that means that blood flow and minerals may not be getting to the hair root along the bladder meridian in Chinese medicine. So weak kidneys and bladder does not allow the bones to produce red blood cells, so your roots aren't nourished. So many people have kidney infections, UTIs, that could result in hair loss. And so you'll see where you ever have somebody come up to you and say, hey, when I take a shower, the hair comes out, but they're really stressed. And they don't have a genetic history of hair loss, because that's a big thing too. But you see the small signs, signals in Chinese medicine, and it seems like it helps out some individuals on media when we put those things out. But it's really something I see every single day. So it's always about weaknesses and imbalance. So yeah.
So you are not about the Western medicine system. You're more Chinese, right?
More Chinese medicine, yes. I have a lot of Western medicine doctor friends, and we coincide and we work well together. And I love that they could, in a good way, disprove what I'm saying or prove it, in the sense that we can be congruent and talk about it. Yeah.
So there's no animosity. You're working together.
No, I have to say I've been in this business almost 20 years, and so I'm thankful I have a lot of people, but I'm thankful that there's other doctors that are medical doctors, and that route that would send people my way, and I send them people their way. So
Gotcha.
there are some times when individuals though would tell me like, your bladder could be causing or creating some kind of distress in your skull, causing hair loss. There may be some in the medical route that may not agree with that primarily, but I haven't had too much animosity.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you feel as if Western medicine is ineffective? Is that why you're going Chinese medicine? Or do you feel like, what's your overall take on Western medicine in general? Because obviously there's a reason why you're like, nah, Chinese medicine's way better.
I think that both routes can have their way to help individuals, especially if you have an emergency, you have to have a surgery. I've had to have a surgery, and we can talk about that later. But when I look at Eastern medicine, the reason I lean more towards it is because they use symptomatology in a different way than Western medicine. So I don't say that I don't agree with Western. I do agree with some of their tendencies and some of the things they use. It helps save lives, and I'm so thankful for my friends who do it. But when I look at symptoms, I can look usually on the skin, the eyes, the tongue, and that's what Chinese medicine does. Look at small patterns, even in behavior, and that gives me a preemptive way to find out what may be going on with the person. So, for example, if a person comes to me and they have really dark circles under their eyes, and they say, my low back hurts right here, in the low back, if usually they go to a practitioner, they may
Right.
say, well, you just need to, do some PT.
Shout out to today's sponsor, HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. They do all the shopping and meal planning for you. Ingredients arrive at your doorstep pre-portioned, ready to cook, along with step-by-step recipe cards that are pictured. I used to suck at cooking, but HelloFresh makes it very easy to cook. They also save you money. HelloFresh is cheaper than grocery shopping and 25% less expensive than takeout. If you order food a lot or you grocery shop a lot, HelloFresh is there to save you money and time. I value my time a lot. That's why I'm a fan of HelloFresh. I cook it with my fiance every week. Our favorite meals are the chicken orzo, the salsa verde enchiladas, and they got so many more options for you guys. Check out their site. Let me know your favorite recipes in the comments below. If you want America's #1 meal kit, go to HelloFresh.com/50DSH for 50% off and free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/50DSH and use code 50DSH for 50% off plus free shipping. Let me know what you guys order in the comments below. Can't wait to see it. Peace.
But my mind is like, well, you probably have kidney issues, and the kidneys are right where you're pointing to.
Mm-hmm.
It may not show on a UTI test for urinary tract infection, but if you get really extensive testing, guys, I'm telling you, I have labs that will test proteins of certain types of bacteria. You will find that there's bacteria that's hiding in the kidneys. And overall, I've seen this hundreds of times, and that's not patting myself on the back. But I do wish that there was more of a congruency with Eastern and Western medicine, that there was more of a mesh. And there's a lot of practitioners that do that, though.
Right.
Yeah, I wish Western was more preventative and holistic like the Eastern approach.
And when we say preventative, too, I agree. I wish that we'd have whole sections of hospitals that were basically geared for preemptive measures. And I understand that I've had patients that come in that need to get a hip replacement or a knee replacement. And many times orthopedic medicine would say, okay, just wait till it actually gets injured before you have a surgery, or we'll do PT, which all work. But in my mind, go ahead.
There's no ROI on preventative medicine.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I mean, right?
There is lots of, I guess, controversy on how much money is involved, time involved, quality of life is involved with preventative medicine, because measuring the amount of funding that you have to put into like taking herbs or doing some preventative, in most cases a lot less than if you had to have surgeries and such.
Yeah, way less.
Yeah.
One of the things you specialize in is acupuncture.
Mm-hmm.
I've never gotten it, so walk me through the health benefits of acupuncture.
Okay, so in the body, we all have it. They talk about nerves transmitting electrical signals to make your movement. In Chinese medicine, the acupuncture are basically pathways that are flowing through your muscles and your fascia. They do show this on research. There's small tubes that run through your fascia and your tissue, and they transmit electrical signals. So it's literally electrical signals that go up and down the body. They call it bipolar electric signals. But if you ever have an area around the body where there's a problem, the electricity will actually build up around that area to try to heal it. So in Chinese medicine, let's say somebody had an infection in their spleen, like if you had mono when you were a kid, your body will take electrical signals and try to put it all around the spleen. And the spleen then will try to heal. And what happens is if it crowds it, then it will stagnate the energy and the blood, and it doesn't allow the electricity to flow down the line to the next organ, like a highway.
Right.
So then they put a needle in the area around the spleen to help open up the energy to flow down the line. Does that make sense? Because the body's trying to heal it. It's like there's something going on here. So if I gave you an acupuncture point, what the acupuncturist would do is check the points and find out which ones were blocked so the energy would flow to the next highway and the next organ. Because it's basically in one day, when you wake up, you have a highway, 12 highways of energy on each side of your body that are circulating electricity all day.
Right.
And so you try to find the blocks in each highway. And that will tell you, along with circadian rhythm, where the problems are at.
Interesting.
How deep does acupuncture go down, the needles?
Oh, man. You can go very deep.
Yeah,
you can get micro needles, guys, that are like in Japanese style acupuncture and in Korean hand acupuncture. Very, very, very light. Some people just press it and pull the needle back out. I've seen needles go, I've had it done on me, where the needle is this long and go all the way down to the bone.
Gee.
And you feel it.
You usually know if you have a fleshy part, you'd be surprised. You don't feel it as much as you would think. If you're on a place that's very blocked, I will tell you, sometimes it can be tender. But I've seen, physically seen brain surgeries in China and in Japan where they would use acupuncture needles through the scalp recovering, and they would literally do open brain surgery with that with some anesthesia.
Whoa.
So they have needles that are bendable that can go into this and go around the cranium.
That's
so there's
scary.
so many. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Some people do. I've seen people do eye acupuncture.
Gee.
I mean, could you imagine that,
Nah, I
guys?
don't know
I'm
about
serious. Oh man. But yes, it can go deep.
Mm-hmm.
But there's acupressure too. Now,
Yeah.
acupressure, there's going to be the argument that says what's acupressure to acupuncture, which one's better. Many of my mentors that have taught me said, yes, this type of needle like silver, gold, stainless steel are better or than acupressure. But what they say is all about vectors. So how old school I am, you remember like the old school antennas where they can put an antenna and it'll pick up on the frequency that's basically existing in the radio waves, right? And it'll transmit it through the wire.
Right.
Yeah.
They say that's what happens with a needle. So if you get the right vector for the needle, it'll actually put the signal into the tissue that the body needs. So the body will choose the frequency it needs. And so with acupressure, if you can put your hand or your finger into the right vector, you can open up the tissue just as efficiently as a needle would do if you have the right vector. That's the argument. I've seen it work pretty well, and it's all about frequencies and what the body craves.
Wow. You're also a specialist in parasites.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm on day 3 of a parasite cleanse
No
right now.
way. What do you do?
I'm taking some pill I bought off Amazon.
Yeah.
So what are some common ways parasites enter the body?
Yeah, I heard about that. I forget who was speaking about that, how it's bipolar, could be a parasite cleanse. Being hungry, like angry, when you're hungry is a clear sign that you have parasites.
Interesting.
I didn't know that.
You can. Before I go down rabbit trail, just remember, stall me. I'll tell you this. With parasite cleansing, the biggest way that most people don't realize they get it is going to be through fruits and vegetables. If you wash your fruits and vegetables, I get pictures all the time, and soak them in apple cider vinegar and some water. I've seen worms that come out to the surface because they eat sugars. That's what they want.
Okay.
That's one of your basic ways, especially from other people. You can get parasites from other people, especially the parasites in the teeth. I've had people that get their gums cleaned out, their jaw cavitations, and there's parasite eggs that they find when they scoop them out.
At the dentist?
At a biological dentist. And I don't say this to be scary.
Wait, a biological dentist? What's the difference?
A biological dentist will usually try to find ways, because I have a lot of dentist friends, but they'll use things that don't have too much preservatives. They try to use more of an organic route.
I've never heard
spices.
of that.
Yeah.
Biological dentist before?
No, I wish, because I hate that they use the fake mint and the that one ingredient that's bad for you.
Yeah.
Blocks your third eye.
Yeah, like a lot of fluoride. and
Fluoride,
things.
yeah.
Yes. If you go to a biological dentist, what they'll do is they could take a picture of your gum line. And I can tell you stories, guys, but they'll go through the gum line and they have cavitation. So if you ever got your wisdom teeth taken out, what they'll do is they'll leave the pocket open. And so the pocket stays open, and what will happen, even if you're trying to wash it out, is they'll fester. So anything you eat, fruit and vegetables, the parasites will get in there. And then if they reproduce, they'll lay eggs. So you have a lot of times where it gets in the gum line, and they'll scoop it out, and they'll culture it, and you see little eggs. And it's pretty interesting, though.
Wow.
But when you get it through fruits and vegetables, and another person may have it in their gum line, can it be spread that way? Through research and what I've seen clinically, yes. One of the biggest ways we talked about was lakes and rivers. And I got a lot of kickback on that as well. People were like saying, are you a fearmonger and you're saying that you should never go into a lake or river? Not at all.
Well, that's where most parasites lie.
They do.
Yeah.
Like they're in fish.
It's their habitat.
And I had thousands of people message me and say, hey, I remember I got giardia horribly when I jumped into the river.
Wow.
And I got sick because I swallowed the water.
Jeez.
So you can get it through fruits and vegetables. Other people can get it through lakes and rivers, or bad water sources. And through pets as well.
Really?
Yeah, because pets, I'll say this, like yeast, like for example, certain yeast can come through our skin. Certain yeast can go on the fur of animals. But if you had parasites and they had pinworms and they had larvae and they're sitting on your couch and such, and they're so small and microscopic, their eggs, the dog kisses you on the mouth or something like that. I've had patients who were young guys. I remember they got really sick with parasites, and they confirmed on their testing. And the one parasite that we found was that one's in canines. Like, do you guys have dogs? And they're like, oh yeah, they let them lick them all around their mouth and kiss them, and so they have it. So, with that, guys, at parasite cleansing, when you take the herbs, the mood does change, and the reason being is because they produce tons of toxins. And one of the main toxins, or a few of them, are called phenolic acids, indole. These are all fancy words. but they're chemical toxins that you find in a lot of our plastics, a lot of our chemical plants. So they produce the same type of reaction in you, and they'll fry your nerves, and they will change a person, especially on new moons, lunar phases, and high pressure changes, and a person can go into ADD, bipolar anxiety, because it triggers their genetics.
Wow.
With their dopamine and serotonin levels being altered. I hope that wasn't too much, but you'll notice that certain people, have you had it where, like, say a lady has hormonal changes, or, you know, it's a full moon, and people say, I had one of my friends, she told me, she goes, hey, the crazies are coming out when it's full moon.
Right.
But, you know, in the old days, they said that when somebody had syphilis, and syphilis is a bacteria, but they would say they go crazy because on the full moons and the lunar phases, it presses down on you, pressurized. So all the toxins in your tissue that's been dormant push into your lymph, into your bloodstream. So then your brain starts to get affected, and you're like, why am I in such a bad mood? And so you start.
Well, how can you walk around with syphilis that long? I guess you can.
Well, you can if say it's syphilis, or like syphilis has a lot of the same shape as Borrelia, like Lyme. But any parasite, most of them are protozoa. If you're getting on the cleanse, they can be dormant because they can insist. I know it's a lot of gross things to talk about, guys, but really, we don't realize how long they can hang out. Because if you imagine that if you lived in a house and you could stay dormant and be fed all the time with the same nutrient, this dark environment, warm, cozy,
you
never leave.
Yeah, it's like a roommate that doesn't need to pay rent.
Yep, they're never.
You don't know he lives there.
That's right. Somebody's in the basement playing games, and they just take your food, and nothing against playing games or anything. But I'm like, that's the kind of effect that parasites and certain bacteria and viruses have.
Wow.
What is actual Lyme disease itself? Because you hear it. I've never met anyone with Lyme that even.
I'm from Jersey. They're from ticks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people in Jersey have it.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lyme disease. Now it's documented all over the world. Lyme disease is just composed of certain types of bacteria, parasites, and virus. So they say it comes from Lyme, Connecticut. It can be carried by ticks.
Is that why it's called Lyme? Because it came from Lyme?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was figuring
that makes
some
sense.
kind of acronym.
Yeah,
or
but
something.
if you look at like bacteria and viruses, they're always named after something like the place they're found or the scientist who found it.
Okay.
But the infections are like, forgive me for going through it, but it's like Borrelia, which is the actual Lyme, Babesia, which is like malaria, it's a parasite, Rickettsia, which gets you Rocky Mountain spotted fever, like the dots, Bartonella, which is cat scratch fever, like the song. You get it from dogs and cats.
Scratch?
Yep, it's in their teeth.
Wow.
And their nails. Ehrlichia, which is ehrlichiosis, which is rashes, fevers, constant body ache, arthritis. Epstein-Barr virus, which is big. Anaplasma mycoplasma, people with pneumonia. You can get it from like the tick bite. And the list is starting to grow. But basically, you can get it from mites, fleas, ticks, spiders, mosquitoes. You can get anything that can transfer blood. And so if a person out there has like symptoms of like extreme migraines, fevers, unexpected weight loss, digestive issues, heart palpitations, because I had Lyme.
Oh, wow.
Really bad. But the thing is,
Did
on
you
the
know
outside,
you had it?
No, because everybody thinks you look normal. They always say, but you don't look bad, you look fine.
But you don't feel normal.
No.
Wow.
I'm telling you, I treat tons of Lyme patients. And individuals that usually would come to me and say, hey, I feel like I'm going crazy.
Damn.
Literally, like I'm going mental. And we would do certain testing that would test the toxicity of the brain, and we'd find out it would lead back to Babesia or Lyme. So with all that to say, guys, it's like, it's not something I take lightly, because when you have that type of infection, they burrow into your brain tissue.
Jeez.
And they can burrow into your joints. So a lot of times people that say, why does one sister have arthritis and the other one doesn't? You test one of them.
Even diabetes too.
Yes.
It's hereditary, but you know.
It is. It's like how it's triggered.
I have a question. Just an overall question. I seen something that I read that said gluten-free foods actually block the brain.
There are evidence that gluten can't.
There was some studies
gluten-free
showing
food does.
Gluten-free actually blocks the brain.
There is.
I thought it was the other way around.
No. They said gluten-free food is actually bad for the brain.
Wow. Okay.
I was like, whoa.
There are discussions. I do have a really good friend of mine, Dr. Peter Osborne, who's a master at gluten. You know, like gluten education. I do a lot of work with people with gluten. I hadn't read that yet. I need to look into that. So I'm going to be honest with you, like with gluten-free food, there are some arguments about the protein of gluten. And so with that to say, they say that gluten has other forms like gliadin, which is in gluten. And so that protein is what attaches to your thyroid and to certain organs. And that can cause the autoimmune. But I need to read about that. I haven't read that. But that's awesome.
So what is the Chinese medicine clock?
Oh, man. Okay, so
You said the clock?
the clock. When we do clock analysis, just like circadian rhythm, when we talked about the highway, think about the highway transmitting signals like a car.
Right.
Every hour of the day, every 2 hours of the day, one highway is energized. I hope that makes sense. So you'll say, for instance, from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. is the liver highway.
Okay.
It's crowded the energy around your liver. Then it goes into the lung. So it literally transfers over energy into the lung area to help nourish the lungs. So you have basically a 24-hour clock that has 2 hours each day devoted to the healing of one organ system. So when you have this traveling of the energy around the body, if a person has a block in that highway, it will stall around the organ, and you'll know that the organ has a problem because the energy is trying to stall around it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so you'll notice certain times a day when you have a symptom, that's how I know that organ has a problem.
Wow.
So if you go to a person and you're doing a parasite cleanse, right?
I get it.
You could say, hit me up and say, hey, Motley, I'm getting up at 2 a.m. every morning and consistently. And you're doing a parasite cleanse, like it's definitely in your liver. Or in the middle of the day, I can't keep awake. I have to go to sleep. And I know, well, how's your digestion? Because from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., that's your small intestine at times, where you're basically trying to do what? Trying to dissolve food. So you notice with the action of the organ in Western medicine, coincide it with your circadian rhythm, and you will find a lot about a person.
Wow.
Just what's happening throughout the day.
So each hour of the day, your body is working on a certain part of it. So you pay attention to your body at certain hours. That'll let you know what's going on.
That's exactly right. And what you'll do is if you take a little diary, which is the most boring thing in the world to do of yourself, but if you go, well, my shoulder's hurting, pay attention. What time of day? And then correlate it to your parents.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I had gallbladder issues. Did your mom have it? Did your dad have it? Did your grandparents? And that stuff gets passed down genetically, too.
Wow. So does everyone have the same 24-hour clock, or is it different?
No, everybody's supposed to have it. And people then argue, go, hey, what if you go to Japan? Is the same over there? And I'm like, I hope, pray to God that it
when
is.
I had COVID, I would be cool during the day, but at night, I would get so sick. And this was when obviously it was going away.
Yeah.
But night was my sickest time. As soon as it hit 8, 9, I got extremely sick. But during the day, I was fine.
Oh, okay. So 8 to 9 would be his adrenal time, his thyroid time. It started to become the triple warmer and circadian rhythm. So you're basically saying the heart, the pericardium, the muscles around your heart, the adrenals and thyroid, are all probably being challenged by the virus. So you could say that was your weak point. So your body,
it felt like it. Extremely hot. I mean, sweating out through my sweater, like extremely hot.
So what happens when you pick up the pace and do your exercise? Your thyroid and your adrenals kick in, and you sweat. So your body's doing the same action to fight the infection as you would do to do a workout.
So that was a good thing then.
It was a good thing because your body's actually working. And they always say that fevers, I hate to say it, rashes, fevers, high temperatures are all a sign that your body's actually going to do what it's supposed to do. But it must have really affected the muscles around the heart and your adrenals and thyroid because that's where the most action was happening.
Yeah, no, I would be like sweating, super sick. My sweater would be like drenched.
Oh yeah, that's when I would say, okay, you have COVID.
Yeah.
So you have COVID.
You have
COVID, and here's some antiviral herbs to help along with what you're doing with your medical doctor. And then I'd say, let's nourish your adrenals and your thyroid. But then I would look at your history and say, hey, did your mom or dad or anybody of them have like really low adrenal function? Did they have any type of reproductive issues? And it's just your body's responding as your family would.
What hours are the most commonly, like, I guess people have the most issues with?
American culture?
Yeah.
Oh, gallbladder time.
Western culture.
Oh, man.
What time is gallbladder time?
Like 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. where people literally go to sleep.
to 1 a.m.
That's late.
Yeah, it is.
Do you ever get to where you guys may just sleep through the day, like right through the night, but how many people who tell you, man, my sleep was horrible last night and I wake up?
Mine's different every now and then. It depends what's
older
on my
people,
mind.
right?
Yeah. Well, it just depends what's on my mind.
Yeah. It's either going to be the gallbladder time around 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Or usually like at the time where your body goes into what we call the kidney phase, which is usually around 3 to 5 p.m. Where people balk, they're like, I can't even keep my eyes open, or I need an energy drink, or I need a big cup of coffee, because that's the kidneys and adrenals are related, and that's when your body's supposed to go in. They call vagatonia. You're supposed to relax. But in American culture, we push ourselves. We keep going.
Absolutely.
So we completely drain our kidneys, and that time you trained your kidneys and adrenals to always do something, and they're tired, so you're going to bonk.
Wow.
And if your gallbladder's infected, because I always make this joke, guys. I used to eat fudge rounds and drink Coca-Cola and everything you can imagine with all the sugar. And what does it do to your gallbladder? Just trashes your gallbladder.
Right.
You throw in there, antibiotics, birth control, bad water, stress, resentment, frustration, anger, which is the emotions of the gallbladder. And you'll have people get gallstones or very sludgy gallbladder, and they'll wake up all night.
Is that what causes the kidney stones?
Kidney stones, whenever somebody has extreme amounts of fear, or they have genetic predispositions of being in an environment that was fearful and frightening, where it shuts down the kidneys and the adrenals, and so you had this clogging of all the movement of fluid in the kidneys.
Wow.
So you'll eat stuff that has high oxalates, high calcium. Yes, that'll cause it, but a diet that's not beneficial can create mineral deposits in the kidneys as well. So you have to really watch the kidneys, because infections will get in there. Strep, staph, that'll do it too.
How important is fasting to you?
Oh, man.
We damn near ask every doctor that, but they all have their different, everybody's
has their different view.
Yeah.
I just did a really good interview, Dr. Mindy Pels, and she is big about fasting and talks about the reset that occurs. I think it's very beneficial.
Okay.
But what
about the times? Because you have to clock in fasting, so how do those correlate?
That's the biggest thing, is like it's so bio-individual.
Right.
Because I couldn't tell you, or I couldn't tell you, like, do this particular time.
Yeah.
And they say that there are certain genes. I do a gene test where it will tell a person if they're genetically fit for a fast, because they don't have the capacity, or they do have the capacity, if they can fast, to tear down fats very well. That makes sense. So docs will go, you should do it. Everybody should do it. But this person with this body type should do 4 hours a day. This should be 8 hours. If your body genetically has capacity to break down good fats, like from almonds and avocados, you should be able to fast very well and hit ketosis. If you can't break down fats very well, or even break down your sugars very well, it's going to be very hard for you.
But how do you know if you can break down sugars?
Usually if you get the shakes. If you get the shakes easy and have low blood sugar, when you go, man, I get hangry and I get really, really fast. Like if I don't eat something within 3 hours span, it's going to be hard for you to do it fast. You can train yourself.
So does that means that your body doesn't break down sugar well when you get hangry?
Yes, because you're not using sugar efficiently.
Okay.
Because sugar is a fast burner, and you eat that sugar, and your body can metabolize it for 2 or 3 hours, and then your body goes, well, I'm not used to burning fat, so I'm not going to use it. So if I'm a skinny body type, right?
Yeah.
I burn sugars fast.
Yeah.
I burn fats fast. But with fasting, such great benefits, even with chronic infections, chronic diseases. It's just that you had to find what fits specifically. I hope that's not too vague, guys. But even like ladies that have their hormonal cycles, depending on their age, what their diet, what their background is, you can have certain links to the fasting.
Yeah, I think past 72 hours, it starts killing cancer cells, right?
Yep.
And so it's past 72? I thought it killed cancer cells throughout.
Nah. You need it at a certain point.
And they say they get to, when they get into...
that's an extreme fast. That's nothing in your
3-day fast.
Yeah. And whenever the cells start to recycle everything, all the bad, inflammation patterns and cells within your body, I think sky's the limit. They were talking about different research where it's killing off cancer cells. It's starting to work on parasites. It's starting to work on viruses.
Wow.
And that's why people have the sweats. They'll get kind of sick afterwards because their body has to find a way to push all the toxins out. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I love fasting.
Do you believe a person's emotion and mindset can cause disease?
Most definitely. I think if I wanted to talk about something, the most would be that. There's a chicken and the egg. In Chinese medicine, each organ system is congruent with a certain emotion. But I don't try to separate from Western medicine. For example, if they say if your liver is off, you'll be angry. If you lived in an angry environment, they say that the liver is challenged because let's say you had angry parents and it caused your body to create toxins. They say it's proven that you create toxins from your thoughts if they're toxic. What does your liver have to do? It has to clean out the toxic load. If you're consistently in an angry environment, your liver is going to have to work, which screws up your own methylation detox patterns. So you'll recycle your liver toxins and it'll get into your brain and you'll be angry. You'll get irritated.
Wow.
See, and so if you had kidney issues, your kidney, if you're always afraid, your adrenals are always charged. You're around people that are afraid. You're afraid of them. Adrenals are putting out a lot of adrenaline, cortisol.
You're afraid of them as in bullying,
being abused, trauma. I mean, my heart goes out to people. And then
wow,
the adrenals shrink, the kidneys shrink.
Okay.
The kidneys can't put out the hormone erythropoietin, right? To tell the bones to create red blood cells, and people start having anemia, start having hair loss because they are afraid.
Jeez. So kidneys is fear, liver is
Anger, gallbladder's frustration, your small intestine. If you can't digest food, you have a horrible gut system. Small intestine usually means you're lost or abandoned. The heart,
or abandoned mentally,
you can't find focus. You know what your direction is. That's all small intestine, heart.
Wow. And also the heart is linked to
totally.
That too.
They're the energy producers.
Okay.
Food and your heart.
What about negativity?
Oh, negativity. Usually.
What is that linked to cavities?
Yeah, I'm telling you, negativity though would be like, usually you would say like unmitigated gall, like, you know, some people are always like kind of upset. That's usually liver. Oh, and they're always kind of like negative.
Oh, so that falls under the liver too.
Yeah, you can't detox very well.
Okay, so what about positivity?
Positivity.
How does that affect the organs?
Oh, they say that your body gets into a higher vibration. It's a big term. They say a higher vibe.
Right. Yeah.
If you can think higher positivity, they say neurologically it should shut off the areas of your brain that basically harbor frequencies of anxiety, frustration, and fear. So the more positivity you think, you have to retrain the program cycle of the brain.
Gotcha.
So when people say to fake that you're positive, you need to.
Okay.
You have to, because you're not going to create a pattern. They say it usually takes words or positive wording about 800 to 1,000 times just to get the brain to start to believe it.
Wow, 1,000 times.
That's crazy how energy is directly connected to health.
Exactly. Like if you thought something like, seriously, people say something like, talk to your parasites. You're like, that is mental. What are you talking about?
It's the truth.
But if you talk positively to your organ, they say that each organ has its own enteric nervous system. Like they're each working on its own. But if you can create patterns between your brain and the organ, this is what they say, and you think positive about the organ will start to meld with your brain to say, okay, let's create positive feedback. I want to get rid of all the things that would make me have toxicity.
Whoa.
And there's some great researchers out there. But I'd say personally in the office, I have seen people that literally you clear out all the parasites, the yeast, the mold, everything. And their negativity keeps them still you can look at their blood work, but it keeps it in that negative, toxic state. Even when their blood shows that things are clear.
Really?
And it's kind of unusual, like your mindset, because I don't know about you guys. I'm always like, I call it the facts and figures. I like math.
Yeah.
I'm half Asian. I like math. I like Rubik's Cube.
Yeah.
But I always thought about stuff in settled form. But then it got into this energetic realm where I started to see people like their personality mimics the way they heal. If they're jittery and always doing this, their acupuncture system was always jittery and moving quick. And so when they started to change their mindset, without really me doing it, their health would change dramatically.
Really?
Yeah, emotions are, man, that's the one thing I love talking about.
What about love and relationships? I see you don't have a ring on. Are you married?
I'm not married.
Okay, so
almost one, but anyway.
What about relationships? How does that directly affect the health in certain people?
Oh man, relationship. You ever hear the notion that a married couple will look like each other?
Yes.
Is it because
even people who date after a while, they start looking like
definitely
each other.
You look like your pet.
Yeah.
Polaric patterns. They call them polaric patterns. How you form in the womb. Your hands follow the cells follow a certain pattern of polarity, positive, negative electrical charges to create your form. The more you're around another person's pattern, they say that you can actually transpose some of their pattern into yours. You actually vibrate or have a resonant frequency with them.
Whoa.
So you actually start to follow the same patterns they have physically in their body. So your cells follow the same pattern. In relationships, this is what they say, and I've experienced that, but in a relationship, if somebody, they say, is high vibration, right? Or they're low vibration, you're high vibration. If their organs are not balanced and they're sick and they're holding parasites, please don't get mad at me if I'm saying this to anybody out there.
Say it.
But
drum roll.
If they get sick, if your organs are healthy and they're not working to get their body healthy, you have a possibility of pulling the energy onto you.
Whoa.
So you can actually actuate. You ever see what people say, like, if you speak the same frequency, you amplify each other's signal. That's how music works.
Right.
If that person's vibration is low and yours is high, you have to meet in the middle. So it'll pull yours down in music, and you start to have a medium frequency. So your gallbladder starts to get sick, and you start to get resentful and frustrated. So you have to find a person, in my opinion, with a relationship that has
the same
views of positivity and love. Like you know, like if you find somebody that's kind of spiteful or angry and always find something bad in somebody else, you're gonna know. So you do it, and it's not woo woo. It's literally science that would say that, you know what, I'm gonna actuate with this person, and to the point, if you are with the person and you know yourself is sick. When I had Lyme disease, I wasn't in a relationship because I knew that my organs were sick. My heart was not good. I would pull that person down.
Wow.
So I worked on my heart. And so I was like, well, because I was getting negative. And then so I hope that's not too much, but in a relationship,
no, it's perfect.
You better make sure, because whatever organ they have is off, correlate it to the Chinese medicine clock, correlate it to the emotions, and then start to notice, do I start to do the same thing? Because the healthier you two work together on, wherever when your partner is with you, work hard, work strong, and you're going to fortify each other, amplify, get stronger together. But if they don't want to work out with you or do a parasite cleanse with you, if they think it's crazy, don't do that, you're going mental. Be mindful.
No, she did it with me. She's rocking with it.
See? So love it.
I'm still trying to understand how do we start looking alike. I'm still stuck on that. So how the body changes, the face changes. Like, is that
exactly
true?
like okay? So when
you start looking like you
can, like if you there's a thing called Korean photos. Have you heard those?
No.
So what they do is they use it was found by mistake by a researcher in Curly, but basically they would take a hand and they could measure and photograph through an X-ray pad, but they would take a picture of the hand and they can measure the light that was coming off your currents of your hand, the electrical patterns, the meridian system. So they would have people that had missing fingers, and they put their hand on the same pad, and they still have the pattern of a whole hand. And you can do it with leaves. Leaves, you cut the leaf in half, and you still have the whole picture of the whole leaf, because the pattern is already set. So when you're born, the pattern's set, and all your cells are going rolling over end on end to form your finger pattern.
Right.
So if you actuate with somebody and they're there beside you enough, you start to vibrate with them. Maybe the shape of their nose pattern starts to affect the polaric patterns in your nose. So your cells start to actually grow out to the same pattern that they're in.
So your body will physically starts to morph itself.
Yeah. That's
that's nice.
I know you guys are like, can we get done with this?
No. This is interesting, right? Yeah. Because I mean, this answers a lot of questions. Well, at least some. Some people are going to agree with.
There's some people.
Some people are like, this dude's crazy.
Yeah, it makes sense though if you think about it.
Yeah.
Do you ever see that? People say like, look at their dog.
No,
just like their dog.
No, I see people together that's been together so long and they look just alike.
Yep. And you think it's your eyes, but it's not yours. It's like they follow it.
Yeah.
And, it's just like, I think it's crazy that when you're a kid and you grow older and they say, oh, you look more like your great grandfather now as you got older. I was like, why? Because the polaric shifts in their patterns and their electrical field shifted just like the grandfather would.
Is it true a lot of diseases like cancer start in low frequency environments?
That's what they say. And I see, like they say with, because there's that talk about acidic and alkaline environments. Yeah. But low frequency also could be, they say, in the presence of low emotional frequencies. So you can have acidity from high amounts of yeast, fungus. Some researchers say that cancers thrive in the acidic yeast environment. So if you have an infection that's creating such acidity in your body, the vibratory patterns of your own cells actually decrease. So you're trying to get a nice healthy vibration, all of a sudden it gets slow. So it can't operate 100%. So cancer cells are there to do a couple things that they create because they destroy your other cells, right? So high infection sites, they say, can create it. High yeast and fungus. Can I go on this part? They say that there's research, and some people may know about. Have you heard of German New Medicine?
No.
Well, the research was Dr. Hammer, and some people may think he was kind of different with his research, but he developed cancer after his son died. But basically what he said was that the emotional patterns that they did CAT scans on individuals, and they found that he did like over, don't quote me on this, we have to research, but I think it's over 90,000 CAT scans.
Whoa.
And we would find different rings around their brain. And the rings, they thought they were anomalies. They thought this is just a pattern in a CT scan. But what they found was when you're in the womb and you're developing, you have three types of cells: mesoderm, endoderm, ectoderm. And from these cell layers, your whole body forms. Your organs, your tissues, your skin, everything. But he found out these little areas in the brain were correlating with the area that the person would develop cancer. So he found that each person that had it had a huge traumatic event in their life of injury or emotion that settled into that area of the brain and created a field.
Wow. So things that happen in life create cancer.
That's what he's saying. I can't say that because I'm very careful because I don't want anybody that does cancer research.
Well, I mean, it's a direct correlation.
There's a correlation with, they say, emotions.
Wow.
With your emotions.
And it just lays dormant.
It lays dormant, and so it creates a program with the organ that the anomaly, right? There's a connection between that area and the organ. That's what they're saying. So if, like, let's say the kidney had some form of tumor or cyst cancer, they would find that there were certain areas of the brain that would actually have an anomaly that showed there was trauma that created fear.
Wow.
And the fear was creating a program with the kidney, and the kidney would build up to help respond to the fear. So the kidney would go into what we call a refugee complex. So they would say, I'm out of water. I'm a fish out of water. I'm scared. I need water to survive. So the kidney was swelled. This kidney was swelled to actually absorb more water to survive.
Right.
But what happens when the kidney swells so much, it has to be broken down. It has to naturally break down.
Right.
So they say sometimes infections get into the kidney to break it down. It allows it to happen. So you have these environments that are set up to allow growth and tear down. And so it can create a difference in the body where maybe cysts form, maybe fibroids. I can't say that for certain guys, but that's what they say. Those low frequency vibrations. I hope that doesn't ruffle any feathers, but that's
insane.
what
It
they
might,
say.
but it's worth getting this out there.
Yeah, I mean, so overall, when it comes to health, obviously it's food and what you actually put in your body.
It is.
The things you do every day, but it's also your environment, your physical environment, the things that you're involved in, the people that you're around, the things that you deal with emotionally are actually a direct correlation, which actually a lot more important. Well, not a lot more important, but equally as important as working out, diet, and everything else.
Yeah, it totally is. Like when we talked about low frequency environments, if you don't have proper workout and the proper food, if you eat something that's too high in starches or carbs, if you don't get enough fatty acids, but if you're around people too that, and I'm not putting down people that are around you if you have people that are negative, but if they're not in that healthy environment,
you don't want negative people around.
But if you do, it creates a lower vibrational pattern in the body. And, because like we talked about any type of autoimmune disease, or if you're talking about cancers, and I don't plan to be a cancer expert, and I'm not saying that, low vibrations cause all cancers or any of that. I'm saying that when you have lower environments of vibration, you start to see that diseases and infections are probably going to be more rampant in those in those areas. And it all starts with food.
Wow.
In my opinion. So we talk about yeast or fungus growing and things growing in those environments. Your gut bacteria basically are what help you create enzymes to digest your food. It helps you create neurotransmitters. It helps you with breakdown of toxic substances. If you eat something like if you eat too much processed foods and eat too much, refined carbs, you literally are giving fuel to the guys that not every bacteria is bad. E. coli is not bad in all itself. And people give it a bad rap. It does certain functions in your body, but feeding the improper foods and the improper water and the improper air will always create a low vibration state. So, and I hope that, guys, I didn't go too far on the
No, that was
perfect, man.
Before we close out, what actual foods, from meats to some vegetables on a, low end, should people be eating every day?
Well, again, and I hope
starting with the meats.
With the meats, they say that vibratory patterns of like pork can be lower for individuals. They say the anti-inflammatory diet, that meats like lamb and all grass-fed beef, even bison, are probably the more advantageous to an individual. Certain fish. Now, with that, those are some of your most beneficial. I can't say pork is bad all the time. I come from a Korean, background.
Yeah, pork.
Pork is like it's really
big.
good. When you get it in your soups, they say that the marrow of bone of pork actually builds a lot of the blood in your body. So it's how you clean the meat. It's kosher to Korean culture.
Gotcha.
So I don't want to be vague, but it's like it really does depend on, in general, like about how your body genetically can break down the food.
Okay.
But I would say that like good grass-fed, those are the meats I was talking about. Tuna and salmon, not everybody can eat it, but they say that lighter fish, like a Pritikin diet, like a Mediterranean diet, those lighter fishes are probably up on the scale that you should eat. So an anti-inflammatory diet is probably the basic pattern that most people should try to follow, because it's not going to create too much histamine response in the body either. So, and with the fruit and vegetables, I always say if you can, reduce high sugar fruits. Like if you have like pineapple, I love pineapple, guys. Don't get me wrong.
It's high suger.
It can be high sugar. Bananas can be high sugar. Certain types of apples. Watermelon can be sugary depending on what phase it's in.
What about purple grapes?
Purple grapes can be very high.
Though I love.
Don't get me wrong, guys. Like it's just like I'm saying that if you say high sugar glucose index fruits and vegetables, you have to moderate it and make sure that your other parts, like your good proteins and your fats, are in that congruency.
Right. So eat fruit along with a protein meal.
Yep. Always try to find foods, in my opinion, that are low glycemic index, and try to follow that pattern.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and I hope that wasn't too like.
So what fruits would you recommend? Blueberries.
Blueberries are always good. Blueberries,
or the brain, right?
Yeah, blueberries are good for the kidneys because they're colored blue, like the water element in Chinese medicine.
Gotcha.
Blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, certain
all
types of cherries.
The ones I don't like.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like,
I hate blueberry. I can't eat them raw.
Yeah, if you have to find out the fruits, I always tell individuals that whenever you find, if you find any fruits that you like and you don't like, look at the anti-inflammatory diet and try to find things in there that you like.
Gotcha. Okay.
Then be inventive.
Okay.
Take the things you like and
make a juice or something.
Yeah, I want to make it right. I don't want anybody out there to think that when I talk about chronic yeast or fungus for a diet or low vibration, what I'm trying to say is you don't want to live a stagnant life where you can't enjoy a piece of pizza.
Gotcha. Right. Gotcha.
You never have a cup of ice cream or a bowl of ice cream. No. Gotcha. Get your gut settled and get your yeast and your bacteria really, really in a good formation. You'll be able to eat it.
Absolutely. Man, I could talk to you for hours.
I hope this was good. And guys, can I just say, though, I mean, for anybody out there, though, I'm just saying that it does have, like, those diseases we're talking about, like Lyme disease. They deal with cancer and autoimmune. The things, like, when I talk about them, like, I'm just trying to say, like, for me, like, when I say low vibration or anything that could bring the vibration low, like an emotion or a food, my heart goes out to those individuals. And I always tell them, like, give me some good feedback because I want to know, like, if there's extra research behind it, you know. Absolutely. And so I hope I didn't say anything too controversial for the podcast or anything like that.
Guys. Whatever's controversial, it'll be on the clip. Just know that.
Where can people find you and ask for help and stuff?
Oh, my feed is at Dr. Motley on Instagram and at Dr. Motley on Facebook. And my website's drmotley.com.
Perfect.
Just try to get in Nashville.
Nice, Tennessee.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Wayne.
Health is wealth, baby.
Health is wealth. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.
Peace.